Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. Welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. We're ready to rock today. I've got a real rock star in the house. Hey, someone who's a fellow fan of Metallica, of the music, of the awesome revolution that's happening, right? So we've got to wake up, guys. That's what I really love about Metallica. That just jump, yes, wake up. I love that about this person, this Dr. Melissa Bird, and she's got that in her. She's also, of course, very heart-centered and spiritually connected and everything magical and awesome, and to help lead you and support you in the art of the graceful revolution, whatever that may be for you. We're going to get into it today. I'm glad to have you here today, Dr. Melissa.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Likewise, I'm excited you're here. So let me tell you about her. So Dr. Melissa Bird is a descendant, hopefully I'll get this right, of the Shivwits Band of Paiutes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. She is her nationally recognized lay preacher, author, life coach, and podcaster. Dr. Bird has made hundreds of keynote speeches and workshops before audiences at universities, conferences, and religious institutions worldwide. Her combination of education, real-life experience, and practical advice makes her a powerful force of change in the lives of the people she connects with. Past audience members have described her speaking as fierce, revelatory, life-changing, enthusiastic, and inspirational. Dr. Bird creates the genesis for a new brand of leadership and graceful revolution. She inspires personal understanding through contemplation, helps people use their intuition to change their lives and communities, and encourages the healing of grief and loss through spiritual connection. Her words awaken revolutionaries, trailblazers, powerful innovators who are seeking deeper connection and expansive growth. She is the host of the Thinnest Veil, if there's any veil at all, right? The Thinnest Veil podcast, and the author of Sage Guide to Social Work Careers, Your Journey to Advocacy, and the co-author of the best-selling book, Women Connected in Wisdom, Stories and Resources Rooted in the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. So we'll leave it at that. There's so much more we could get into, but let's dive in. Dr. Melissa, we just connected recently, and when you were telling me about, what you're up to and what you do and all that, so what you stand for, and the art of the graceful revolution. There's a lot of talk about revolutionaries, and I love that you bring in this idea of art and grace within the context of a revolution, because usually a revolution is thought of at some level of is violent, right? Like we're gonna do whatever it takes, shoot them all, kill them all, and so hopefully all we're doing is killing out false beliefs in this process, I hope. So, but tell us more. What thing is, this show is about that. Let's start by just talking about what is that, because it's a big idea, I think. But what is the art of the graceful revolution?
Well, it's really funny because when you were talking, I was like, Kill 'Em All is a great album. Like, come on.
That was a great album.
It is a great album. No, so the art of the graceful revolution came about because I had a dream almost 10 years ago. And I dreamed this dream and I typed it out in my phone in the middle of the night, like while I was sleeping. And it is about a new brand of advocacy where we humble ourselves to our shortcomings and engage in acts of graceful revolution that shed light on people's lives. So it is this idea that when we actually talk and tell our stories, we connect with each other at a very human level. And when we connect on a human level, we engage in acts of grace that allow us to connect both spiritually and emotionally in a way that I think we're actually called here to do. And so the graceful revolution is this idea of acknowledging that there are spaces for, fist pumping and protest and anger and righteous fury. I mean, there are spaces for that. And there are also spaces to shift the way we connect with each other in the world so that we can see our shared humanity. And throughout my career, throughout my life, I have very much engaged in a lot of disruption and protest. And I mean, I have a master's degree and PhD in social work. I used to teach social justice and advocacy, but the main component of all of those things are connection and a human level. And I think that is what we forget so often, and yet it's the thing we're craving the most. And I think human nature is just so fascinating. I've been watching, Zuckerberg just released his Thread, which is the new social media platform in response to Twitter.
Right.
And I've been over there watching just this morning. I just got on there this morning and I'm over there watching humanity just do the thing it does. And it's so fascinating. And I just think, I think what we are craving is more grace in our lives and more permission to engage in self-compassion and self-love in a way that is expansive so that we can connect with each other overall throughout the world. And so I think that that's what the grace is in the Graceful Revolution, just really giving ourselves permission to realize that we're here to make a difference. We're all here at the same exact time for a reason. And when we give ourselves permission to own that reason and own our voice and own our own spiritual tether, then we give other people the chance to do the same thing.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free Meditate, Make Money meditation today.
So what it sounds like to me as I hear you talking about that is that you like to support people who have something inside them that they want to bring forth, right? To shift consciousness or to make a difference in the world. So tell us more about like some of the type of revolution, so to speak, that you have been behind. Like give us some examples of the type of revolutions you typically get behind. Like you talked about social justice, things like that. But like I'm curious, what if I said I want a graceful revolution that I don't know, I mean something that you wouldn't believe in. Like, Trump needs to be back in the office or whatever, whatever my graceful revolution would be about. I'm curious about that because I've people like yourself that are behind these things. Like sometimes people are more inclusive, truly inclusive. Like I can kind of get behind like did multi, points and see the validity of them. Or sometimes we're more like, no, I'm on this side, and either you're on this side or not, and then I get behind that. So I'm kind of wondering how you approach that, or is it just like the people that are attracted to you are on the same page anyway? I mean, they tend to come to you on the same page anyway, so it's not even really an issue.
Well, no, they're not.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
No. One of the things I've noticed over the last 6 years of running my own business, I mean, I'm a life coach, I'm a public speaker, I'm a preacher. One of the things that I really noticed is that people want to be seen and they want to be heard. And I don't believe that we are on the fringes. Like, I don't believe we are super liberal or super conservative. I don't think we are. One of the things I teach actually in my group program is this idea of really thinking about the things we've been told we are too much of. So you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too brown, you're too white, like you're too smart, you're too dumb. Like we get these messages continually from advertising, from family members, from religious leaders, from political leaders, that entrench us in this all or nothing way of being. And that takes us away from our core center truth. Most of us are flailing around out here in the middle, sort of treading water going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. And what I do is I help people bridge shame and wounding. I help people connect to the hurt that they have experienced. I help people learn what it is to have faith, to believe that there really truly is nothing on this planet we need to control. And that being here means that as long as we are breathing on this planet, we have an opportunity to return to our natural state of being. And that means we are very imperfect. We don't even come together in the womb perfectly. Like if I put my hands together like this, one finger is taller than the other finger. Like one hand is bigger than my other hand. One ear is higher up than my other ear, one leg is longer than the other. Like we don't even come together in the womb symmetrically, just like the trees and the butterflies and the rivers. We're not meant to be perfect. And I think a lot of this all or nothing way of being in the world is this need to control and predict. And that's not why we're here. But we have been told that's why we're here. We've been told that we are here to take over and to lead and to move, pull up our bootstraps and move forward. But those messages aren't why we're here. Like that's just not who we are as human beings. And the people that I work with, like I work with mostly women, and the people that I work with, the women that I work with have a very deep faith. Most of them have a deep faith in whether they call it God or the universe or whatever they call it. But they've been so harmed by this all or nothing thinking that you have to be one way or another, that they've pushed the idea of that universal consciousness away. The idea that they are love and they are loved, they push that away. And I say this all the time on my podcast and in the work that I do. We are love and we are loved. And that's it. Like that is the foundational truth. We are love and we are loved. That is, once you start to understand that, then the people who are like you brought up, I want Trump back in office, or whoever those people are, like, okay. And how can we develop and create compassion for that, their full-blown belief that that is true? I don't believe that that is true, but that doesn't mean I have to hate them. And I think that, honestly, Daniel, I think that's the problem, is we believe the lie that we are supposed to hate each other. And actually, I think we are supposed to love each other. And so most of the work I do is about unraveling and untying those knots that keep us firmly held in this idea that we are supposed to hate each other. I think that's how white supremacy persists. I think that's how racism persists. I think that's how homophobia and transphobia exists, is we have to address those things within ourselves. And that is the hard work. The hard work is admitting that we carry these internalized messages of sexism and racism and misogyny and all of these things inside of us, because we've been told that's how we're supposed to be. But our core default as a part of nature, we are naturally occurring things on this planet, which means we are intertwined with the natural order of life. And that means that we are love.
Yeah. Amen. All right. I love that. I mean, that's so perfect. Yeah. I'm like, even in a show I just did the other day, I have another podcast. I got just two conscious guys talking. How outrageous is that? That show shouldn't even exist, right? That's what they said. Some people. Enough of that guy stuff. So funny. But anyway, but I was doing the episode. Now I remember saying, okay, you guys, you all want to get rid of toxic masculinity? Good luck. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of all these things. You're not going to get rid of like these foundational sort of, maybe over thousands of years, or maybe, But like, I mean, you're not just going to get rid of it. Like, that's the surest way to keep it around, right? Let's get rid of the thing we hate. You know, like you said,
Well,
like thing. Let's hate it to get rid of it. Whereas love is where you're going to see things open up and release, right? So
yeah, because what we resist persists.
Yeah.
That's why the resistance doesn't work, because we're pushing up against something that the more energy you give to that thing, the more you push up against it, the bigger and bigger it gets. My favorite image of this is like, have you ever seen the image of the kid, like the shadow on the wall, where the kid's like all afraid of the monster shadow, but when they shine the light on it, they realize it's just a little tiny mouse, right? Like we create these monsters out of things. And we're at the beginning of hundreds of years. It took us 500 years to get here as a country in the United States. It's going to take a hot minute to unravel what's been happening here. It's not going to be done in the next 2 or 3 years. And I think that the thing that makes my work so powerful is just giving people permission to be in the mess. You know, one of my favorite phrases is no mud, no lotus. Like, we got to get a little bit dirty to bring poop makes flowers. Like the most beautiful flowers in the world come from a whole lot of poop, right? And when we allow ourselves to realize that we're not going somewhere. We're dying. We're just living this messy life, right? And we're on this journey. And there's not really, I don't really believe that there's a fork in the road where we get to the end of the road and we get a choice to go this way or this way. I think we're just on this big journey, and sometimes we go up and sometimes we go down, and sometimes you can see forever to the horizon, and sometimes you're on some gnarly ass switchbacks for like 10 years and you're like, God dang it, I already did this shit. What am I doing?
The hell is this about? Right?
Yeah, move the damn boulder, when you realize you can just go around the boulder, right? But I think this is why we feel so divided right now, because we don't give ourselves permission to go, well, maybe it's not going to change before I die. And I can surrender to that and be like, okay, but what can I do? This is the Graceful Revolution. What can I do to engage in compassionate, loving embrace for myself and the people that I serve and the people in my family and my friends? How do I have agency and free will? And how can I change the way I judge other people? Judge not lest ye be judged, people. This is like 101. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Like all of these things that have been twisted about by communities. When I think what we're really craving is this nourishment of self. And when you learn how to nourish yourself and love yourself and hold yourself dear, despite what everybody else says about you. I mean, let's be honest, Daniel. I am a feminist, bisexual, Native American, witch, Christian. Like I could go on and on and on about all the things that I am, right? And yet people love me. Like people are attracted to me because I have done this work, because I have gone, well, that violent anger that just was such a entrenched part of who I was, which I learned from growing up in a very abusive household. What I learned was holding that doesn't serve me. And it certainly is not going to serve my friends and family. And when I opened myself up to just surrendering to the fact that I can't do anything about what happened even 5 minutes ago, let alone 20 years ago, I can only do what's happening right now. And what's happening right now, Daniel, is you and I are having a lovely conversation. And that's what's happening right now at this moment. I can hear the birds, the sun's starting to rise. My dog's laying on her back on my bed, like happy as a clam. I'm looking around this beautiful room that I've curated thinking, dang, my life is awesome. And that's what we have to remember, is to be in this present moment. That's revolutionary. Being here right now, no matter when you're listening to this, whether you're listening to it as we're airing it or 5 years from now, be here right now, because that is revolutionary.
Absolutely. I knew we were more on the same page than I even realized. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I keep telling people is lately, one of my perspectives is the same as yours, and that I keep saying, like, because I do believe, like, well, why are we angry with each other, and like people are going to war or whatever, because it benefits certain people, right? Like, that's why it's happening. That's literally, let's just get to it. Like, that's why it's happening. But then, why does it continue to happen? Because we keep going along with it, right? So that's, we're buying in. So we have to stop buying in. And you're right, we're not gonna be able to stop buying in instantly. It's like, can't stop eating those donuts tomorrow necessarily, right? I mean, whatever it is, like, we just can't. It's easy to say, just stop, do this, but it's not like that either, right? That isn't the be and end all anyway. So, like, just stop, so, but my point is, we have to be in for all this stuff for the very, very long haul, like for the longest haul. Like you said, like, think in terms of generations and generations, and for the rest of your life, everything. And no matter what the so-called cost is too, like choices you're making, like, all right, aren't you gonna get angry now? Get your pitchfork out now and go kill them all. And nope, still not gonna do it. But don't you realize this will be gained, this will be lost, this will it. Yeah, but no, I must not stand for that. Right? Like, we have to be in it for the long haul, not because just temporarily it seems expedient to do this, so let's do it. That's what got us to where we are today, right? With we could argue with some certain benefits, but also with a lot of problems, and that's why everybody says we're teetering on extinction and everything, right? Because the opportunity for us to right, and which we can embrace that too. But I'm just saying, like, we can embrace all of it. But what I'm saying is, like, if we want to have what we're looking for, it's like we got to get out of the microwave kind of focus, right? We're so used to that in the Western world. We have to look in terms of the long haul, like our ancestors did, right? It's that there's a truth to that. I'm sure some of them were probably just thinking about living for today, right? Like, how are we going to eat? But what cultures that evolved, I think most of those in the old days, they used to think long term, right? Like, okay, what's going to be like for my kid? That's starting to go away these days. I don't need no kids. This is my life for me. Let's live for the best for right now. And what can I get today? How much money can I make? There's no long-term perspective. And I don't know. So thank you for listening, and let me go on my own rant, I guess. But I think getting back to what you're saying, like, we have to be, because you said, like, we gotta, I forget what word you used, but we have to stop thinking like it's going to be over like overnight. It's not about it being over. It's about being here now. And, yeah, so I'll let you add in from there.
Well, there's a couple of things. I had to make some notes so I didn't forget.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that really struck me while you were talking. One is that I think the reason people don't change, or they get so entrenched in these beliefs, that they're afraid of losing status. So the reason people don't start to inquire or become curious or creative in their own thinking is because they're afraid of losing friends, losing family, or losing community. Like, those are the three things that keep us, from actually wondering, well, I wonder what would happen if I did this differently today. Like, I wonder what would happen if I just asked somebody a question instead of assuming what they think, right? And so we have this fear of losing status that keeps us stuck in internalizing external crap that just isn't ours to take on in the first place. The second thing is that my kids are older. So I have like a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 21-year-old, right? And my kids are all they're just coming into this righteous fury stage of life, right? Like, they're teenagers, they know everything, and they are mad, right? Like, what kind of a world are you leaving us, people? Right? Like, and I tell, and they have this frame though. Like, my 12-year-old son has a frame from which he operates, right? All of our kids do. And this is the thing that I really want to encourage any parents who are listening to this. We are raising adults. We are not raising children. We are creating the next generation of humanity that's going to take the reins when we are unable to do so.
Mhm.
I tell my kids to kind of chill out a little bit and remember that the lens through which they're looking at is from 2023. The lens I look at most things from is from 1983. And
Mm.
the lens their grandma looks at things from is from 1953, right? So I tell my kids, like, hold the phone. It's not been a long time since you've had these rights. You have not always had these rights.
Right.
So calm down, shift your thinking a little from this all or nothing thinking, and really start to think about what's in the messy middle. How do you know how to connect? Don't polarize yourself. Don't fall into that trap. Even though I know developmentally, I mean, I have a degree in human development. So like, I know developmentally, this is part of the stage of life that they're in, but also I try to encourage them to be curious and wondering and just think about the possibilities, right? So tell your kids to chill. And I encourage adults to do this too. Like we can't apply 2023 logic to 50 years of civil rights, for example. It doesn't work, right?
Mhm.
And I really want to say this. Mother Earth is not dying. She's getting rid of us, but she is not dying. If you look over the millions and millions of years that this planet has been here, she's going to keep going. But she's going to do what she always does. She's going to burn us out, freeze us, maybe both. Maybe she's going to freeze us and burn us out. I don't know. She's in charge, not us. So we have to love her while we're here. And there's this among Indigenous people, there is 7 generations thinking. So when you make decisions, you think 7 generations ahead. You don't think 1 generation, 2 generations, you think 7 generations ahead. And so if we start to make choices based on 7 generations from now, that, and while giving ourselves self-love and self-compassion, because I truly believe that the anchor point, the starting point is self-love and self-compassion, giving ourselves a dang break for choices we've made in the past, for crap we're visualizing a future that doesn't even exist yet. Like, we need to honestly give ourselves a break, like, calm down.
Right. Right.
And when we make decisions, let's think 7 generations ahead. And that, I'm not trying to get everybody to turn into some environmentalist, whatever. But what I'm saying is when you start to connect to your own humanness and your own humanity and give yourself a break, boy, does that change the way you operate in the world. And when you say, well, I'm going to not do this perfectly ever,
Mhm.
I'm just going to surrender to the knowing that I'm the most imperfect thing.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so fun. It's so fun to live in a life where we forgive ourselves of our shortcomings
Mhm.
and tell the story of who we are as human beings.
Yeah. We're
Delightful.
never going to get it right, so to speak. Right. So
There is no right or wrong.
yeah.
It
Right.
just is. We
Right.
just are here.
Right. Right. I mean, that's why there's infinite compassion and love for ourselves, others, and everything. And I remember just recently, again, I was a client actually, and been working together for a long time. And there's a new contract, new role, whatever. But we're going back and forth, and because it's a big commitment, big next step for us. It's like, well, I don't like this. And some of that came up, all this sort of stuff. And then at the end of the day, like, we were just laughing about it, by the time we got the deal done, it's like, we're kind of just laughing about it. Like, yeah, I love you. I love you. I love you. Like,
I have that happen with my clients all the time. Isn't it fascinating?
yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, we're coming up to the end of our contract. So I'm going to do a new contract. And I
Right.
do a new contract and they're like, and you can tell, like, they're like, well, I can't start on this day. It has to start on this day. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, what do you mean, okay? And I'm all, okay. And they're like, I don't get it. And I'm all, we've been coaching on this for 6 months, people. Come on. Like, okay.
Don't you get it yet?
Right. Like, and I'm happy to have them not get it yet. That's fine. Cause keep it coming. But
Mhm.
But I think this is such an important thing, right? Like we get lost in the minutia. We
Mhm.
get so wrapped up in the little tiny details that we forget
Mhm.
that we are surrounded by a world that begs exploration.
Mhm.
There's something so magnificent. We were up at Crater Lake in Oregon, in southern Oregon. I understand now, Daniel, that there's actually many crater lakes throughout the country. Who knew? We were at Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. And I just was looking at the blueness of that water. It is one of the most stunning colors of blue that I've ever seen. It reminded me the blue of the Utah desert. It's the same blue of the Utah desert down in Zion. And I'm looking at this water, but all around me, people are yelling at each other. They're like, I can't get into that store because too many people are in it. They're like freaking out. Like people are angry. And I'm just standing there staring at this water going, wow, I used to be that person.
Mhm.
I used to be the one who was trying to push through it and there for the experience and blah, blah, blah. And then I realized a couple years ago that the experience is just being.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not worrying about time. It's not worrying about money. It's not worrying. Sometimes it's worrying about the nearest bathroom as I get older, but not always.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just looking at the blue of a lake that was created only 7,700 years ago. That's not that long ago. 7,000 years ago is when that mountain blew. Like, that's not that long ago. And here we are trying to figure out how to fix shit that happened 2 years ago. No, like that is like a blip. This life we're living right now is but a mere blip.
Yeah.
And we are here to connect with each other. I think that is the true healing that we are here to be doing.
Yeah, and what you said too about the timeline of with well, what's in the conversation a lot lately is whatever, trans stuff or whatever, all this stuff. And yeah, if you look at the history, like, you know, things like for whatever the term you want to use, gay, bisexual, whatever, whatever.
LGBTQ.
LGBT, yeah, that's why they came up with that one, right? So,
We
but
didn't. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm actually gonna stop you for just a second.
okay,
Actually, it was not the gay community, the LGBT community did not come up with those acronyms. What happened was in the 70s, that was when the American Psychological Association
right,
decided to start putting the alphabet soup together. It's
right.
not actually our alphabet soup.
I'm not saying you guys, the people in it did it, but I'm saying like there's people within your, within those groups that are like, we don't like this alphabet soup, they don't even want it, so.
No.
And I don't believe them because it's like, oh, just throw them all in one basket. That's who they are, and we're all for them. Whatever. We're for Indians. We're for this one. We're for that. How about the Asians? Yeah, we'll throw those in now, and we'll just throw them all in one big basket. Like that's ridiculous to me. I don't like it either. But my point is like it was considered to be a disorder, right? Like 50 years ago, if you're homosexual, that's a disorder. You're a psychological disorder, right? And so it's changed a lot. I was just looking at lots of statistics and things just yesterday on all this, and things have changed so much. We forget how much, like you said, I really love that you brought that up. Things have changed so much in 50 years. And now, yes, the more people are worried about, like, oh my God, you're going to influence my kids, you're going to turn them all. Then there's these videos, all these people saying, we're coming for your kids. I'm like, well, is that a real video? Is that just in jest? Is that real? Or I don't know. But whatever, it's like we've got this whole thing. People are afraid. They're afraid. So let's deal with the fears. Let's deal with the fears rather than those hateful people, like, well, they're just afraid. They're afraid of what's coming up and what's coming up for them. Let's talk about that rather than, like just again, shutting everything down, like judgment. Okay, how about openness and conversation? rather than just hatred, anger, they're wrong, I hate them now. That's not doing anything for any of us. Because, usually again, like when you go into shadow work, right? We find all these things live inside us to some degree anyway, right? Like, yeah, I don't know about this thing either, but I'm never going to admit to it because I know the right choice is this or whatever, right? But we're not willing to even have compassion for the part of us that may almost really, and most people would say, no, I don't agree with any of it. And I don't believe that. Deep down inside, there is a racist or a this or that somewhere inside you. And it's okay. But the point is, it's okay as long as we're conscious of it, right? If we're conscious of what's going on. That's how I see it anyway.
Well, I think it's really important. I think it's really important to address the fear. Because most of us are not in a situation where we have to be in a fight or flight response. Fear is very simply a fight or flight response. Do I need to fight it or can I run away? Unless you are in an actively abusive or violent situation, there is no reason to anthropomorphize this fear. Being afraid of transgender people is ridiculous. It is like on its face just as a notion is ridiculous for two reasons. One is many people actually probably know a transgender person. They pass as male or female, and we just don't know it because they are who they are. There are many transgender people in the world that are not visible, not because we have rendered them invisible, but because they have in their life, as they have transitioned into being their true gender, and you hear this all the time from transgender folks. Now that they have transitioned either from male to female or female to male, they just are who they are. And most of us probably don't even know who they are because they're just passing. And yes, this is a very controversial topic in the LGBT community. So, I'm happy to have a dialogue with anybody who'd like to. But I think it's really important for us to remember that we don't have to fear the things that we are told we are supposed to be afraid of. I'm way more afraid of not understanding my path in the world than I am of what I don't understand. I'm more curious about what I don't understand. I also think this us versus them, right or wrong, common enemy thing that we've got going on right now, especially that we've had, I would say that really blew up with the 2016 election. Like there was this real influx of hatred and us versus them, common enemy kind of stuff that is really vile. And I don't think there is such a thing as right or wrong. I can't find it in any religious texts. I can find guidance. It doesn't matter if you're reading the Torah, the Quran, or the Bible. There's guidance in there that is nuanced for many, many people. It is not a zero-sum game. It's not all or nothing. And when we engage in this us versus them mentality, it creates a falseness to who we are as people. And I've had this conversation a lot recently about the term BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, because the Black experience is not the Indigenous experience. And then we've just shoved everybody else in this POC, people of color column, and which further makes them invisible and marginalized. And it's the progressives who have done that. Mm-hmm. But my experience as a Native American woman in this country is not even remotely comparable even to some of my other Indigenous brothers and sisters. And that's the invisibilization of, and my story that I have experienced, which we do not have time to get into. It's a lot.
Yeah.
That is such a deeply painful thing for me that I've only recently been able to start figuring that out. And for many of us, we don't, the revolution, to get back to the graceful revolution,
Mhm.
the revolution is to create space for ourselves and others to figure it out. We are not meant to be in a 24-hour cycle of fight or flight. We are not going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. No one is knocking on my door. I know that, to be sure. I live in a safe house. And I know what it's like to not live in a safe house. But I live in a safe house now, which means not even my children have to be in a fight or flight response.
Mhm.
The progressives call that privilege. I call that humaning.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, we're waking up to all this stuff, all these different ideas. I mean, yeah, I'll just put it that way. We could talk for hours. This has got a lot of juice in it. Really awesome, juicy stuff. I did want to talk about some other aspects of how you're helping people within all this, as we're bringing illumination to so much here in this conversation, which I really enjoy. Is I know, like, some of the big things you do to help people with navigating their, the art of the graceful revolution, is to help them get more connected with their guidance as well. How do you help people to do that? Given that, yes, there's like fight or flight, like that'll take you out of your guidance, right? Make people very controllable. So it's like, okay, as we fast from that, as we maybe don't, like, oh, I won't watch any news ever again. Like, I don't think that's an extreme too. But
Yeah.
it's okay. But as we take back our power, more present with everything, and how can we follow our own guidance and our own intuition? You know, because a lot of people, I think they're following their guidance, but they're not really following their guidance. So how do you help people with that?
One of the things that I learned especially when I started doing my clairvoyance training, was that the clearest, most intuitive thought happens in the first 5 seconds.
Mhm.
So we have the first thought. The first thing that comes into our head is our intuition. And
Mhm.
then we have feelings about that thought. And then we go down the rabbit hole where our brain kicks in and we're like, I don't know, that might be a bad idea. I was just talking to a client yesterday and I was like, she's like, well, how do I know the difference between my intuition and my ego brain? And I was like, does it turn you on? Does it feel good? Because if it feels good, that's your intuition. If it lights you up and makes you feel excited, if it lifts your spirit, even a little, just a little, that's your intuition.
Mhm.
Your brain will never allow you to not have those thoughts afterwards. That it's all about understanding that your brain will always kick in, and then you go, no, actually, I'm really going to follow my intuition. I'm going to listen. Your intuition is never vengeful. It's never mad. It's never. It's
My
not.
intuition says kill
Right?
them all, right?
It's not. It's not kill them all. It's self-loving and self-supporting. And so I think that the way you do it, the way you start to hone in on your intuition, is to practice allowing yourself to make decisions from that place. So one of my favorite easy lessons for that is, do I want coffee or tea? Coffee. And then you have the coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I want to wear the blue pants or the red pants? Red pants. Then you wear the red pants. Like the very first thing that comes in. And then you can do it for harder stuff. Like, do I want to work on my podcast or do I want to work on my book? My book. Okay. So I will work on my book instead of my podcast. Like, when you listen to your intuition, and like, I was wrestling with this morning. Like, I was all up in my, am I ever going to make money again? Does anybody love me? What the hell am I doing? Like, it was so ridiculous. It was beyond ridiculous. And I was like, just sit back and just do something creative for a minute. Read a book, think about your day, look around the room. One of my favorite techniques for kicking me out of my ego brain is to identify 5 things around my surroundings that I'm grateful for. I even do it while I'm doing my podcast, while I'm doing my interviews, while I'm writing my book. Like I will take moments where I'll look around and be like, oh my God, I love that that's still sitting there on my wall. Oh, you know,
Mhm.
oh, I love that picture that Sean drew me, or I love that picture of the Grand Canyon. Oh, or I love my Jesus candle, or, you know, whatever it is,
Mhm.
find the little things that you can be grateful for, because when you find the little things you can be grateful for, you create bigger things to be grateful for. And this is how I think we stay in this loop and this cycle of fear and this us versus them mentality, is we forget to be glad that we're here.
Mhm.
I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad that I've been given this voice. I'm glad that I'm walking around in this menopausal, middle-aged body that is revolting against me every single day, because I may or may not have skied too many bump runs as a teenager and now my knees are shot, right? Like, but I'm
Mhm.
glad for that. I'm not mad about it. I'm sad about it, but I'm not mad. And I think for so many of us, if we let this anger go, and listen, I am a fan of righteous fury. Anger has fueled so much of my life and gotten me out of really bad situations. But I'm looking at it now going, and perhaps this is because I'm a middle-aged woman, I don't know. But I'm looking at it now going, I don't have time for that. Y'all young ones, take that on. I don't need that.
Do the anger. Go ahead.
But my hope is that we really start to just notice and navigate this idea that we just ask ourselves, is this self-loving? Is me sending this email, is me posting this on Instagram, is this a self-loving, self-supporting action?
Mhm.
And if we're doing it just because we're mad,
Mhm.
just take a step back,
Yeah. Yeah.
breathe in some air, go outside, look at the sky,
Yeah.
unless it's too smoky, and then don't do that. But like, you know, we have options.
Right. I think, just being at peace with the fact that anger does come up too. I mean, just
Yeah.
with like everything else, like, okay, I'm angry. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm angry. Right. But to
Yeah.
be mindful of it rather than, to get, wildly unconscious with it.
Let it flow, let it roll through, let it roil, and
Yeah.
let it go through.
Yeah.
And then when it comes back again, do the same thing again. This is what I teach people about grief, right? Because we're in a constant grief cycle. And I think the pandemic just made everybody have to reckon with their unresolved grief. And if we just allow all of these emotions, we're meant to be mad and sad and happy and joyful, because you can't know joy without sorrow. You
Mhm.
can't know happy, elated ecstasy without deep grief. And that is the human experience. We are not meant to shove it away, push it away, shove it down, ignore it. We're meant to flow it.
Yeah. Because some people want to, I got the Buddha behind my shoulder. It's like, oh, no emotions, just be in the place. And that doesn't work either.
Then you're just a pissed off Buddhist.
I've absolutely transmuted all my pain body and my emotions and everything. I'm good. I don't need all that stuff anymore. I don't believe any teacher that says that. And I've been with
Yeah.
some my teachers of spiritual. They will claim that they've transcended it, and then all of a sudden I see, nope, they didn't. Just watch a like you say, hot second. You'll see like a lot of things that people say aren't true. Even people I love and admire, respect deeply, they will say things and you're like, well, what happens is we go to extremes. Now look at what they just said. They're so full of shit. I'll never talk to them again. Well, look in the mirror. You're full of shit too. So like, or the shit
and that's it.
right? So anyway.
That's it though, isn't it? Like I think we're kind of all here being full of shit.
Yeah.
And what's true for me is definitely not true for you. I mean, it's not even true for my own children.
Right.
Like my two children that still live in my home have two different truths.
Mm-hmm.
And like what works for one of them does not work for the. I cannot punish the two the same. I have never been able to do that with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're autonomous human beings with their own divine assignment here on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
We're not supposed to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Our truths are not even supposed to be the same, because I believe that God gave us this truth. Our experiences, we are here to have a multiplicity of experience. We are not here to all be the same thing.
Mhm.
And that is the diversity of the species.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we are not meant to be the same.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. That's one of my things I rail against is sometimes with all the good sounding intentions of groupthink, like let's all go with this club or that club, and we're all going to be like this now and everything. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, like because I think like sometimes it just brings us into this, like you're all going to be robots. You just be like this. We'll give you your social credit score, and that'll settle out everything. It's like, no, no, I'm not opting into that system. And I don't want that for other people either. I want people to be, as autonomous as they can be, so to speak, and to just, be who you are, and you don't have to believe in anything necessarily. I mean, but you will be challenged by life itself and by certain teachers that come into your life in all different forms that are going to question about stuff. And the only thing I would ask for people to be open to something new. I've had people on this show that there's one case. There's a show a long time ago, and I forget it. God, I can't think of his name. But the lead singer for Madonna, he came on and he's like, "Let everything burn down if that's what it takes. People need to be heard." And I was like, okay, that's not where I'm coming from. But I ended up surrendering to the guy. I'm just like, what do I know? What do I know? Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. What do I know ultimately? And then we moved on, and it was fine. So it's like I'm not going to argue. Okay, you're wrong. Go back and forth. It's ridiculous. Okay, I hear you. I hear where you're coming from. I may not agree. That's okay.
Well, and
But
I think that's the surrender of control.
yeah,
There is literally nothing on this earth that we are supposed to be controlling.
yeah, yeah.
That is a myth. The earth is not meant to be controlled. It is the greatest creation.
Mm-hmm.
Creator created this earth for us to be a part of it, not separate and above it. We don't live over here. We are of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, if you look at, like, I have this beautiful maple tree outside my window here that I love this tree. I would never look at that tree and be like, oh man, like, you are so beautiful, but could you just move a little to the right? Because I can't see the other tree behind you. Like, could you like just get rid of some of your branches because I can't see the bird's nest that's in there right now, and I really want to see the birds. But we do it to ourselves all the time. We criticize ourselves. We tell ourselves to move a little to the left or a little to the right because we're not perfect enough and we're not good enough. When we surrender to the idea that there is literally nothing on this earth we have to control.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, everybody freaks out when I say this. But second of all, I think it brings a great deal of peace and calm when we realize we are not supposed to be controlling ourselves or the planet. We're supposed to be engaging with each other, even people we don't agree with,
Especially there, right? And I also subscribe to the idea that that we're less in control than we realize.
oh yes.
Right? Control is often an illusion.
Yeah, I mean a lot of it's been really interesting because I just found out I have osteoarthritis in my knees. They're bone on bone. I have to get knee replacements, and people are like, oh my God, are you so worried about getting knee replacements? And I'm all, no, because it'll mean I'm not in pain anymore. And they're like, oh, well, aren't you afraid? And I'm all, no, like, I have no control over this situation. Like, this situation is playing out. If I was trying to control this situation, things would be a lot worse. But I'm like, whatever. Like, I just want the doctor to call me and tell me when surgery is going to be, right? Like, I just want to start making plans. But like, we can't control the processes of aging. We can't control the processes of community. We can't control the processes of life. What we can control is how we react to those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But even that is about flow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not being mean. Like, could we just be nicer to each other? Like, could we really just have a little bit of grace for each other? We're just human beings flitting around on this planet trying to figure it out. Maybe we should just be a little more graceful towards each other and a little less mad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what? Yeah, I mean, yeah, because isn't that like the eternal space that we're always going to be connected with? So why don't we give that more attention always.
I would like to bring it back to Metallica. Their podcast, I actually assign their podcast to every single one of my coaching clients because it is one of the best examples of asking for help and admitting you don't know what the hell you're doing. I mean, their podcast is such an exceptional example of what happens when you realize you've hit the threshold and you can go no further in your life and your career if you don't ask somebody else for help.
Right.
And that's what I love about the Metallica podcast is they're like, it's the whole notion that they got to a certain point in their career after Injustice for All. And they were like, we have no idea what we're doing.
Right.
We were making it on a wing and a prayer, and now we don't know what to do. And that's when they got help on the Black Album, and it completely shifted the entirety of their lives because they asked for help.
Right.
And it's beautiful. And so I think another way that we really move past this fear, we move past this us versus them mentality, and we get to this place where we can actually connect with each other, even when we don't agree, is we start to ask for help. We start to acknowledge that we do not have all the answers.
Yeah. So I've hired my next coach just last week. So I'm like, I need help right now. My ego wants to say I could figure it all out, but the truth is, maybe I could figure it out. Maybe it's even remote, but can you need support. You need support. You need support for so many things in life. So we have to be willing to receive it to the level you're willing to receive more support. The more actualized you are, the more you ascend, the more, you evolve, the more you, whatever, more good things happen. So we can use that as a fun segue into people reaching out to you. Dr. Melissa, the time's getting along today. We could have scheduled a couple of hours, I think. So Dr. Melissa, you do have a really cool free gift for people today. Do you want to tell them about that?
Yeah. So today I am offering your listeners a free 30-minute reading with me. So it's a coaching clairvoyant tarot reading. And it's a 30-minute reading. So yay.
That's great. Yeah. And one of the things we didn't get to, which I would have loved to gotten to, maybe we'll do it another time. But she's powerful with, we don't control things, but we can, direct things and cast spells and everything as the good witches and warlocks that we are. And that's part of what Dr. Melissa does. So you're going to have a magical, here's my prediction as we go into the energy scan part of the show briefly. My prediction is she is actually weaving that tapestry for you, for your good, through that reading. Like, I don't think she's consciously fully doing that, but I think like just getting into her field and getting that reading starts to spin things in a new way in your life and your energy. Because as a seer, I could see that happening when someone connects with her. So might sound just like another tarot. Oh, it's another tarot. But no, this is like you're getting into her magical sphere by taking advantage of that free gift. So we'll put it in the show notes below, the link to schedule. If you can't find it, just go to my blog at yoursacredpurpose.com to the blog, and you can look for it there or whatever. You'll find it. Look around. If you're interested, you'll find the link, but wherever you are. So anyway, I highly recommend it. I'm sure it'll be very potent and powerful. Follow your guidance. If you feel a lift for it, go for it. So yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So Dr. Melissa, I'm going to do just, so I almost gave like one download already, but yeah, let's do some downloads as part of the energy scan part of the show. Are you ready to receive?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's see what's coming through around anything that wants to be shared. Okay, so I'm seeing like it feels like a collection or a group of like babies. They're crying, and your energy is sort of like bringing peace. It's so it's like calming. You're bringing a calming energy, whether it's literal or metaphorical, to these babies. So I think you have a calling to they're showing babies, but I have a feeling it's not so literal necessarily, maybe partly literal, but I feel like you bring yes, you can do it with adults, but I also think you have a calling for kids to help them um you know to in their awakening and in their purpose, something around that. So something like that's coming through. Coming because increasingly people are coming into like okay, you're in the trauma unit, like that's the perception, at least here you are, and so you're working with, yes, adults, but also you might be working directly or indirectly with these babies, these children. Maybe you're probably already casting spells for the children being born. Okay, so let's tune into the next thing. You see energy coming down, swirling through the third eye. So I kind of get this kind of swami kind of coming in, the energy comes in, it's swirling in the third eye, and it's like boom, and then it's like you're like a dead eye with the third eye. It's like so when you get the marching orders, so to speak, in the direct, like there's many ways to interpret this, but you get the marching orders, it's clear what needs to be done. So because like you said, you could get caught in your head, but when the marching orders come in, I get this energy, this, like, if people can see me, my body's like swirling around like a swami like kind of energy comes through me, and it's like boom, okay, that's what wants to happen, or this is what's manifesting now, or whatever, and it's just totally clear. So yeah, you've got a strong ability to get caught up in your head, but then there's a strong clarity comes, and it's like it's no question about this is happening. And that's really cool. Okay, let's see. No, more thing. They're showing me like I'm getting shown like the sense of lots of souls like getting behind you. Yeah, it's interesting. I wish I could paint the picture of some of them I'm seeing, but yeah, I do feel like, yeah, I mean, definitely one of the things I'm getting in it though is I'm also seeing like those that are different and stand out in different ways. Yeah, definitely it's in your heart to bring protection, nurturance, and guidance to those that are different. They look like little monsters to other people, maybe, or weird creatures, but you help. I see like them in your heart. Like that's how it feels like this is part of your tribe. Like okay, so what else is, but yeah, I just feel these like keep seeing baby energy and souls, and then they're like behind your back, and they're like behind you and like bring us forward together. So so it feels like you're a bridge between maybe the spiritual world. It's what it feels like, these spirits, and them coming into the world. And so you might be connecting with some of these souls before they come into the world, even that early, and then bridging the energy for them to come in, and you're visioning and imagining the new world. So together with them in consciousness. So yeah, really cool stuff, pretty unique stuff coming through. All right, well, I'm gonna just leave it there. That's what was coming through. Yeah, quick reflections, Melissa, on what came through.
Well, my army of spirit that is behind me is something that everybody always sees. They always see. And I actually saw it. I was down in on the Navajo Nation with my cousin a year or two ago, and I could see him. I was up on this plateau watching this huge thunderstorm, and I could see it. I could see him forever and ever and ever. And it was the first time I'd ever seen him outside of vision, like in my consciousness, right? It was really beautiful. And it's I love that so much because I do have this big earth mama energy. I had someone probably 30 years ago, say to me, you don't birth your own babies, you birth community. And it's true. I don't give birth to my own children from my body. I mother everybody.
Mm.
So I love that mothering energy that came through, because I am constantly like, shh, it's okay. We're all going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Right. That rocking motion of that, holding those crying babies. That's what I saw myself just holding and mothering those babies. So it's good. It's really
Cool.
beautiful. I'm glad you got to see my army of angels. It's really good.
Cool. It's cool. I'm grateful to have shared. And for those of you that want to learn more about me, go to yoursacredpurpose.com and take advantage of what's there. I do energy scanning and direct that around your purpose in your business, and creating more, more goodness in your business through all that. So it's a Rock Your Sacred Purpose energy scan consultation. So you can find that at my website, or you can take advantage of my meditate and make money meditation. Open up your energy, your chakras, get you connected to the energy of money and flow and more. People tell me like there's more than money that you're downloading there for me. So whatever's coming through, it's good. People like it, and it does help them make more money. So check that out at yoursacredpurpose.com. All right. So Dr. Melissa, so we're starting to wrap up, and I've just so enjoyed this time together, and thank you so much for being on. Do you have any last words for the audience before we wrap up?
I just really want to thank you for having me here. And it was a beautiful conversation, and it was really fun. What a fun way to start my day today. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're doing this work in the world, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. And thank you again. And thank you for everyone listening. Like I always say, keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till the next time. Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.